Boom! Love it. Welcome back, everybody.
Yes.
How you been? Happy holidays. We are back. The beautiful Santa Cruz boardroom, Neil.
Show number 718.
It's a lot. 718, folks.
I want to thank Pastor Vinay Schlepper for coming on the show this morning very early.
Really?
Yeah,
Hey,
Pastor
Pastor.
Vinay's due for comeback.
I thought that him and I are going to do a marry-off. When's that happening?
There we go.
I want to kick his butt. I'm going to marry somebody better than he does. You got that, Renee? I'm coming for you. But tonight, folks, it's, what do you call it, Shark Day.
Shark Day.
No,
It's Shark
yeah.
Night.
Every day is Shark Week.
Shark
Okay, yeah,
Week.
let's-
It's Shark Week.
Tonight's Shark Night here
Shark Night.
at the Off Lip Radio Show. And if you're tuning in on Santa Cruz Waves, thanks for being here.
And the one person we cannot talk about was that crazy bitch with the wetsuit that we want to take her out the foul lines. Remember her?
Oh, yeah.
Veronica Gray.
Veronica
Yeah, we're talking
Gray.
about her.
She comes up all the time. We'll talk about that wetsuit because
That was the worst show we ever did.
debunked, right?
Yeah,
Debunked
yeah.
that one.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Yeah, we'll talk about
You have to
it.
fill
Yeah,
me in.
We
on
will
that
fill
one.
you in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but tonight, folks.
We wish you were. We wish you that you were there.
Oh,
Hold everything.
thank.
Oh, what's
Let's
going
get the
on?
book.
Oh, let's
Oh,
get
the book.
Oh,
Oh, my
book.
goodness.
oh, yeah.
Hang on.
Tonight, folks, Dave Ebert's back.
Yep.
The author of this book, Sharks
not
of
just
the
a
World.
book. It's a thick. It's
It's a thickie. Yeah,
It's a-
and inside there are
it's a volume.
so many sharks in
How
there.
many sharks are in there, Dave?
541 species.
And how many of those have you discovered yourself personally?
Probably half. No, not half. Probably about 50 of them.
So in this book, there's 450 sharks.
No, there's 540 species of sharks.
50 of them you named.
About 50 of them I've named, and now this is 540 species over the last 260 years.
Wow.
So-
you're not that old.
No, I'm not that old, but I've named a lot of sharks. So it wasn't like these all got named in the last, say, 10 years. They've been.
Did any one of those come from prehistoric? You know,
They're all prehistoric.
they are. Are they really?
Most of the
They've
modern
been-
sharks all go back to the Jurassic.
So of the ones you've named, were they all alive
Well,
at one time?
at one time they were alive.
Are
yeah.
they still alive today? Out of the 50?
Yes,
They're
yeah.
all still existing?
They all still exist. Yeah, none
Okay.
have gone extinct yet.
And are we naming extinct sharks too?
I don't work on those.
Okay, that's not your deal.
Well, let me see. I should say I don't work on the fossil sharks, the ones that have died out over time. Some of the ones I've worked on are probably, because I found them recently, they're not extinct yet. So, but I'm hoping to avoid that they don't become extinct because a lot of the ones I find were not known to science. So when I name them, they become known to science. We know what they are, and then we can develop like conservation plans. We can do what's called the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, the IUCN. And so what they do is what's called a red list assessment, and they rate it something that's either least concern, or it's near threatened, or data deficient. But if it's something that's listed as vulnerable,
Yeah.
or endangered, or critically endangered, those are the ones you got to worry about.
Okay.
And some of the ones I have worked on and have named in recent years, in fact, since I've been on the last show with you guys, a couple of the ones I named are in that endangered, critically endangered category.
Did you name up TC? All right?
Do we have a shark yet? When's our shark?
Guys, not yet.
Okay, well,
I haven't been on the show enough to for you
yeah.
guys to compare to shark.
the next show, we'll let you guys know. Now, when people are watching, and when you say sharks, that's always like the great white, the jaws.
The boring.
That's not
the
your.
boring.
That doesn't light your fire, right?
No.
You're over that. You're
Yeah.
kind of over it.
Right, yeah, I'm kind of over those.
You
Yeah.
like, and so earlier tonight, I said to you, "Is there a
It was
little
the
one?"
East, the
is
East,
it-
hang on, let's see if we can remember it. The East Lake, no, Eastern flat shark, Eastern rare flat shark.
Eastern pygmy false cat
Pygmy.
shark. That's a mouthful.
So the East. So the folks
Eastern
watching.
against Eastern
Eastern
pygmy.
false cat shark.
Yeah.
And cat
That-
shark is such a funny name. It's like
Yeah,
that's a.
It's because of the eyes. The eyes look like a cat.
Oh.
That's where they get the name. Now, there's two. The reason they're called a false cat shark is because there's another group they're called cat sharks. These are false cat sharks because they sort of look like the cat sharks, but they're not true cat sharks.
Yeah.
The Eastern pygmy, you said earlier, is your proudest
Yes, that's been
moment
my
in your shark discoveries.
probably over the last 10 years. It's been one of my most exciting discoveries, and that was because I literally had a text message from a friend of mine, sent me this picture of a shark on my phone. sent me on WhatsApp, and I was kind of looking at it going like, man, it looks like it's one of those eureka moments because I mentioned you guys. Sometimes, most of the time, when you find something new, you're kind of like, yeah, that might be new, but I'm not exactly sure. But it's one of those. Sometimes you get that rare moment where you're like, hell yeah, that's a new species, and this was one of those moments.
Where was this shark at?
This was in Sri Lanka.
And the friend who sent it to you is he a shark guy?
Yes, yeah, he knows sharks, but he didn't know what it was. So he sent this to me, and I was going to coincidentally, I was going to Sri Lanka in a couple months.
Did you know what it was from the picture?
I knew it was. I knew from the picture it was an undescribed species.
Okay.
And so when I went to Sri Lanka, I was like, okay. I said, guys, we're going to this area where this is a deep water bay in eastern Sri Lanka. I said, we're going to go there. I want to see if we can find one of these things.
But you didn't just show up, not speaking the language, and go, hey, we're going to go over here.
I do that all the time.
Really?
Everybody,
I want to go see a shark. It's over here, about a couple hundred miles up the street. You know?
Yeah.
How do you?
You figure it out, you know.
You figure it out.
You get, you know. I knew. Like I said, I got the picture sent to me by a friend of mine there,
right?
And so he speaks English, Sri Lankan. Right. So there I go.
I was gonna say, how many languages do you speak?
None.
Okay.
Well, okay. I say none. Some people think I speak English, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So everywhere you travel, when you don't have the native tongue,
right?
You just show pictures and sign language?
Well, no. I typically work with someone from an NGO or with a government official there, someone with a fisheries agency, but more often than not with NGOs. And so
what's NGO?
Basically nonprofit groups.
Okay.
And so I think they're nonprofits, but they also call them like non-governmental organizations.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'll work with groups there, and they usually and these are people in country. So I'm working with locals. So I'm not someone who's just coming in from the U.S. or Europe or Canada, just sort of showing up there and like, hi guys, I'm here. Let me see all your sharks. I work with people there, and I work with them to develop like identification guides and to help them identify the species, because the species they identify goes into what's called a national plan of action. And this was a thing that was developed by the United Nations in the late 90s. It was an international plan of action. It was a template for countries to develop conservation and management plans for sharks in country.
Yeah.
And so the thing you got to start with is when you go to these countries is like, what species do you have here? So you can't develop good policy if you don't even know what you have there. So that's where I come in. And I'll go to these, so I'll work with people in the country there, and we'll go to the fish markets, and we'll identify stuff. And over my career, which is almost 40 years now, I've developed a network of people around the world.
Was that a shortcut for you? Like, a fish market, is that a shortcut? Like, rather than you have to dive around and look for sharks?
Right.
They're over here dead.
Yeah.
Right, on a tray, as TC said earlier, a tray. Like, oh shit, there's one.
Right, yeah.
So that's like a shortcut.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, like, diving, you really can't do much. Okay, you can go on a boat, which is kind of the romantic thing you think about. Like, well, out on the boat.
Weren't you on that boat in Sri Lanka when the thing? What happened on the boat in Sri Lanka?
Well, I wasn't on the boat. What happened in Sri Lanka was I went to the fishing port, or the fish landing site, and this is a place that, if you don't show up at the right time of day, you would never know that a fishery is even taking place.
The market's gone.
There's about 2 hours. If you're not there for that 2 to 3 hours when they're there, it's gone. You just see a few boats on the beach, people there just hanging out.
Yeah.
So what I did is I knew where to go, and I talked to my people about what time it was the time to show up there. So I went the one day, and I started just walking around to get a feel for what was going on. And a lot of times when I go to these places, I only got like a few days sometimes, and so you really got to get lucky, a little bit lucky. So the first day I was there, I was looking around, and I was talking to a couple of fishermen through an interpreter and stuff, and a couple of the fishermen do speak some English. And so I just pulled up my phone. I said, "Hey guys," I said, "here's a picture of a shark that
seen one?
You've seen it. You see them?" And the guys were kind of looking at them. They said, "Come back tomorrow." I'm like, "Okay, I'll come back tomorrow." And so I came back the next day, and the guys, I said, "Hey guys, how's it going?" I said, "Oh yeah, checking the boat there," and they got one.
And
it was a totally. You talk about like I was running around the beach like this one of these like, moments where like I was going like, "Fuck yeah."
So it's called a pygmy. Is it small?
Yeah, it's a small one because the false cat shark actually gets about 10 feet long. This thing gets about 2.5 feet. And so these guys got one, and I was like, "Oh my god, do you guys catch very many of these?" He said, "Well, we had 3 yesterday. We just throw them back. So they're not worth anything."
So we're a surf skate kind of show. We try to just go to surfing.
And music and fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
For people listening around the world, 5 sharks that we need to be avoiding.
5 sharks we need to be avoiding.
As a surfer, yep. 5 sharks.
Okay. Well, you probably don't want to run into a white shark. That'd be probably number 1.
Okay, white.
Tiger shark.
No good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about the gal? I see pictures of the gal in
bull
Hawaii who's like dancing with him and petting him and shit.
Stupid animal tricks. You know?
Okay, so tiger shark.
White shark, tiger shark, bull shark would probably be the big 3.
Yeah.
Oceanic white tip would be another one.
Oceanic white tip.
Oceanic white tip.
You don't hear about those much.
Yeah,
No.
you got to be further off. You got to be if you're out more in the open ocean. You might.
So if you sink in a boat in the middle of the ocean, watch out for those.
And that really does happen if you happen to be in a boating disaster and you find yourself in the water. You don't want to see an oceanic white tip because they could be a little chummy with you.
Yeah.
Are they ever on the coast?
Well, if you get an area where it drops off near the coast, you could get them fairly close to shore.
So it's going to be deep. It's going to
Like
be
Moss Landing.
Exactly. They do occur in Southern California occasionally, but they're more common in Mexico.
Yeah.
Funny story with oceanic white tips. I was off southern Mozambique. It was probably 30 years ago, and I was still a grad student, and it was really hot. We're doing some deep set long lines, like down to 4,000 feet deep. And because it's really hot, you're sitting there like, oh, the water's we're out in the blue waters. And so
on a boat?
Yeah, on a boat. We're in a boat. We didn't swim out that far. And so we're like, let's just jump in the water and mess around. So we jumped in the water. We're just swimming around, snorkeling around, looking for
getting
fish.
cooled off.
Having fun, keeping cool you're in the tropics. And so finally, after we're part of the water an hour or so, I'm like, okay, let's get out and kind of get back to work. So we climb out of the back of the boat. We get up in the back, and no sooner we get in the back of the boat, one of my friends goes, oh, geez. One of my friends goes, he goes, hey, check this out. And we look over the back of the stern of the boat, and there's these oceanic white tips swimming around under the boat. And we're like, that's interesting. These sharks didn't just show up. Right. They were obviously around. We just didn't see them. Yeah. And they just, after we got back in the boat, I think they just came in to see if we're going to throw any food over for them.
So the splashing attracted them, like you swimming around, or did they?
There was probably 6 of us in the water. I mean, we literally could have wiped out the entire South African shark research contingency at that point in time.
So that's oceanic white tip
white
shark.
tip.
Yeah,
okay. They're
very distinctive. If you see a picture of one, Google it up. You won't miss.
Black tips have black on the tip.
Yeah.
But is a white tip? Is it a white?
Yeah, they have very what they call almost paddle shaped. There's what's called a white tip reef shark. Those are very docile to see. You see those are kind of cute and everything. But the oceanic white tip you want to be careful around because they can be very aggressive.
Okay, let's talk. Earlier I said to you, because the great white thing's a little boring to you.
Yeah.
Is there a little pit bull thing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Is there a little shark with? Because to me, that sounds terrifying. A little angry one.
Okay. Yeah. So here's the thing. It's what's called a cookie cutter shark. It's also called a cigar shark.
Cigar shark.
So, yeah.
Remember that cigar shark.
There you go. They only get about 2.5 feet. They're a small shark, and they do it.
Like a cat.
Yeah, and they occur off California, and they bite. In fact, if you go out to some of the islands there, the Farallones, or some of the islands down south, you'll see the sea lions get bit by these things a lot. And so these actually, the cool thing about them is they actually have the largest teeth relative to the body size of any shark in the world. That includes the great white shark. These things, they have huge teeth, but they only get thank goodness, only this big.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Is their mouth big?
No, they have these suctoral lips, and what they are, they're a parasite. They're really like 2.5.
Sucker.
Yeah, they're like a 2.5 foot parasite. Mm-hmm. And what's happened? There's always some speculation that they even though they bite sea lions, tunas, other sharks, and rays, they take a little they get the name because they take little cookie cutter bites out of them. Well, there's always some anecdotal observations that these things might actually bite people that are swimming in the ocean. Well, funny story is people actually do these swims between the Hawaiian Islands that they swim on overnight. Don't ask me why, because I'd be
terrified of that.
I'd be fucking worried about the tiger sharks. Screw them. Freaking
swimming at night. Tiger sharks love nighttime.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
they love
that.
Plus, when you're open ocean swimming, you've got oceanic white tip sharks.
Oh, those little fun buggers are out there too.
Yeah, exactly. So
the romantic nighttime Hawaiian swims aren't the best idea.
They're not the best idea.
Okay, got it.
But besides the tiger shark and the oceanic white tip sharks, cookie cutter sharks, they migrate up. They'll migrate sometimes up to 9,000 feet from the deep sea up to the surface at night. And they're looking for little things like to parasitize. and if somebody's happened to be doing one of these ocean swims, they get.
Why is it
attacked.
everything that's 9,000 feet down has giant teeth?
Well, you want to live, don't you?
I guess that's it, right?
Yeah.
But right, I mean, it's like all those the ones that have the little light bulb in front of them,
Yeah.
giant teeth.
Yeah, oh, exactly. Those things don't get as big, but
Right.
yeah. But anyway, there's this. Or they're doing this open ocean swim thing, and a guy felt the thing bite on his chest and on his calf. Felt these little stinging things, and so he I guess sat up out of the water, whatever he did, and he basically had these little bites out of him. These cookie cutter sharks were biting the guy.
Wow.
And so it seems like he got these little bites on him. And they say cookie cutters got the biggest teeth, but they have like these sectoral lips. When they grab onto you, they twist like that to
like a cantaloupe scooper.
Well, the problem was that this guy had to get antibiotics because he started getting gangrenous from the bite. So even though the bite probably wasn't going to kill him, the gangrene would.
Oh God.
Was the Discovery Channel's Shark Week the big, it was a huge windfall for him by doing this whole Shark Week thing, right?
But for what the
For Discovery.
For Discovery,
yes.
yeah.
I mean that all of a sudden it's like the whole. I mean, we had Jaws, but then the Shark Week, it's like it's like we're fascinated by sharks.
Yeah, people like, and then if you watch Shark Week, they're mostly white sharks. There's usually white sharks breaching up, and as we were talking earlier, when I lived in South Africa in the late '80s, early '90s, it was kind of well known in some places you could go where these sharks would breach. And I'd come home and I'd tell like some of my mentors and
and let's just get breaching. It's not like a whale. This is a shark leaving
this
the
is
water.
a shark like clears the water exactly. Right. And so
why do they do that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Why they do that? I really don't. I mean, some people say, well, maybe it was part of their hunting because the way they hunt, but a lot of times they're not always hit. They'll just do it. I can't tell you why. But I tell people, because people until 30 years ago didn't even really know they did this. And I remember telling them when I lived in South Africa, people that live by the ocean knew some places that were on the water. Oh yeah, you can go out and see these sharks breach. So I went out and saw these sharks breach. I was like, oh my God, these things are really. If you knew where to go. And so I came back and I told some of my professors these stories. Like, dude, are you drinking too much or something? No, seriously. No, I wasn't drinking at all.
Hallucinating.
Yeah. And so a few years after I left, a good friend of mine, Chris Fallows, started filming these things. He was a South African guy, and he became very world famous, rich and everything. And of course, I was a grad student. I didn't even think I guess I could have photographed him too. But I didn't think about it. But I came home, and then these same people that I told like 5 years earlier about these sharks breaching said, hey, Dave, you know what? The white sharks are breaching. I said, yeah, I know. I told you this guy's like 5 freaking years ago. So, and they do it here at the Farallones. They've got them, filmed them off Ocean Beach at Capitola, I guess you guys were telling me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's pretty common behavior they do in different places, and just all over the world that white sharks do. Why they do it, I don't know. But it's an interesting behavior. You've got like a 2,000-pound shark that can clear the water.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's sort of like a missile coming out of the water.
So when you were in high school, who did you tell the story about? You want to study sharks.
Yeah.
And make a living at it.
Right. Yeah. So when that was a story I was telling you guys the story earlier. So when I was in high school in the mid '70s, Jaws came out in 1975. Now, from the time I was like 5 years old, going back a little before that time, I was just fascinated with sharks. My parents gave me a book on sharks, and I thought these are the coolest things around. And of course, when you're 5 years old, dinosaurs, sharks are all kind of cool.
5 years old.
Yeah. No, I was like, and you talk to most people in my field, they'll say, oh yeah, when they're like 5, 6, 7, that's when they got hooked. But when I was 10, I thought, man, I want to travel the world, study sharks, and somehow, I'm going to get paid. I was thinking already 10 years old, I want to somehow get paid to do this. I should have thought like I want to get paid well to do this. Is what I should have thought. But I was 10, I was thinking, so I mean $1 a day, right. So anyway, so fast forward, let me back up before I fast forward. At that time, there was no field of shark research. Shark research was literally restricted to the U.S. Navy funding to find shark repellents for sailors that were down at sea. This came out of World War II. And that went on for decades. I didn't know this because I was like a dumb teenager. Like, I'm just going to high school.
So Jacques Cousteau was the guy, maybe? Or
no, it was a book my parents gave me. That's what I got into it.
Yeah.
But what happened when I was in high school is the movie Jaws came out.
Wow.
And that changed the whole dynamic. But I didn't know this because I was a dumb high school guy. And then my senior year was all this was going on because I went and saw the movie Jaws, and it was really
How many
cool.
times have you seen it?
Oh, I don't even know. I mean, I saw it. I mean, at the time, when I first saw it in the '70s, it was really when it first came out in '75. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like I saw it over in Monterey where I grew up, and so. But what happened was, my senior year in high school, everybody goes to see their guidance counselor. Like, so what are you going to do? Making sure you're not going to go to prison right away. So I went in there and to see the counselor, and we started talking a little bit. He says, "So what are your plans, Dave?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to go to college, and then I'm going to travel the world and study sharks and get paid to do that." And he's like, "That's great."
Keep going, bro.
He was thinking like, "Hey, that's nice, Dave. Do you have a plan B?" I was like, "No, not really. I'm going to travel and study sharks." He's like, "Okay, Well, that sounds like an interesting story. Well, about 10 years later, I saw this counselor, and this was just before I was leaving to go off to South Africa to study sharks, getting paid to travel the world to study sharks. And so I saw him, and I started talking with him, and I said, "Hey, you remember I told you back in the day, I said when I was a senior that I wanted to study sharks, travel the world." He goes, "Oh yeah," because you don't forget something like that." And I said but he was encouraging. He didn't just "Oh God, this guy's like," and so I asked him, I said "What'd you think?" He goes, "Dave," he goes, "you had a direction and a purpose." He goes, I didn't think the shark thing was going to really work out, but you had a direction. He goes, "I got so many kids come in here, I have no idea what you're going to do." I wasn't going to stomp on that dream, because you knew what you were doing. And so I was always very grateful to the counselor there.
Did you like that movie, or did you think it was a little far-fetched where this thing was huge?
It was awesome.
It was awesome?
Yeah, when I saw
Did
it.
it scare you?
I was 15 years old. It was
Totally into it.
I thought it was the most awesome movie. And the other story I was telling you guys earlier is that
Your friend.
We're talking about this guy right here.
Leonard Capagno, who became my PhD advisor in the late 1980s when I started to do a PhD. He's actually from San Francisco, and I got to know him when I was doing my master's thesis in San Francisco Bay. And he was like the shark guy in the world at the time. Well, it turns out he designed the mechanical shark Bruce, which is what they called it, for the movie Jaws. And if you watch the movie Jaws, wait to the very end of the credits, and the last thing you'll see is thanks to Mr. L.J.V. Capagno, Stanford University. And that was the guy who turned out to be my advisor. And he told me the story how he went when he was a grad student in the early 70s or 73, 74. He went, Steven Spielberg wanted to get the best person to design the shark, and he was the guy. And so he went down to Burbank for a couple of weeks and helped design the shark and work with Spielberg. And Leonard's a great guy, but he's a bit of an eccentric guy. And,
so him and Spielberg, you want to?
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to see those two guys running around together.
Right.
Well, you think about Bruce, that shark. I mean, I was a few years younger than you when I saw it, but that mechanical shark scared the crap out of me.
Oh yeah, I thought it was totally real. And you think of things now, like if you remember one of the dramatic scenes there, the shark jumps in the back of the boat.
Right. Yeah.
Now at that time, nobody had any clue like white sharks could. I'm sure some people knew. Okay, people in South Africa and other areas knew about, but the average person, sharks can't do that. Well, it turns out, they can do that, and there are examples of sharks, white sharks, actually not intentionally, but breaching and landing on a boat.
Well, that's probably, in my opinion, one of the most terrifying moments of that film.
Oh yeah,
when I'll never forget.
Yeah.
Slide into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Terrifying.
As I say, at the time, you thought, sharks can't really. It was a good fun movie and stuff. It was scary as shit, but it was at the time. But you didn't think sharks could actually do that, and it turned out sharks can do that.
Out of the water.
And so we didn't even know anything about white sharks at the time, at that point in time. And so that. But what happened? And I read articles later about Peter Benchley. He felt guilty because a lot of after the movie came out, people would go on these big shark hunts. They'd go out and kill sharks, and that no doubt that happened. But what also happened was people started asking questions like, well, how many species of sharks are out there? How old do they get? How many young do they have? Where do they go to? How do they migrate? And
we're still asking today.
Oh yeah.
I'm in 2022, right?
Right. We're still asking a lot of these
questions.
We
wonder about the sharks that live off of our coast that we see all summer long.
Right.
And that historically no one ever spoke about.
Yeah. Well, the white sharks were always around. If you grew up around, Monterey, Santa Cruz, you knew that they were around times of the year they were there. what's fascinating are these little ones, these sort of 6 to 8 foot, I say little, 6 to 8 foot, my thing, if it's as big as me or bigger, I'm like, okay, I'm giving you a lot of room there.
A lot of room there, buddy.
Yeah. So, but what's fascinating is about 2014, these little ones showed up here, and they've been here every year since. They show up about April, and they're here.
Did the shark gods sprinkle little ones? Don't little ones come
They come from big
ones?
ones, yes,
yeah. Okay.
exactly.
So if there's a bunch of little ones,
Right.
mom's nearby, right? We
Somewhere,
don't know.
so we don't know. Mom is around. Okay, these things did not swim in from like Hawaii.
Yeah, they're little.
They're in the canyon.
Well, it's hard. They think where they're. Well, you got to separate out where they're probably birthed and where they kind of hang out, and that could be two places. The Southern California Bite's definitely a big hot spot for these little ones, and that's been known for a long time, decades. They think that the big ones, the mamas, probably give birth out around the Channel Islands, and then they move to the coast. That's the thinking. But what's been fascinating is these little ones have moved up the coast, which tells me that the health of the population is really good, and that we've actually been doing some really good stuff out here in terms of shark conservation and just general conservation of the marine environment. And I like to emphasize that because you hear too much of the doom and gloom and everything's going extinct, we're going to hell in a handbag.
Right.
But we've actually done, on the West Coast here, we've actually done some really good stuff. We had the Marine Mammal Protection Act.
Right.
We've had other things that have gone on which have helped the shark population, not just the white shark, but all these other shark species and the rays that occur here. And I think that's something
It trickles all the way down, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
'cause we have sea lions, we have otters that eat urchins that bring back the kelp forests. I mean, it's like this whole
it's a whole
cycle.
trickle down effect. Cascade. Some people use the term eutrophic cascade. So it's a good story, and I think people should acknowledge that that we've done something good. And then because so people say like, well, okay, does any of this stuff work? Well, yeah, here in California we've showed it works.
So it works, but in the same breath, we've had, I think, 3 shark attacks in Monterey in 5 months.
Yeah, well, that
That's
was
Lover's Point.
Lover's Point.
But, right, but that's, is that what we're gonna be? Is that what's coming?
That was the first shark attack over there since like 1953.
And then a couple months later,
there was one in June on a swimmer. And then there's another one in August on a stand-up paddleboarder who had his dog in the boat. Nobody was injured. The first one, the guy was injured pretty badly, but he's lived. Second one, the guy that bit the board, but the guy and his dog was okay. And then there's a third one that occurred. They really didn't make much of the news. It happened on Halloween Day, where there was a surfer off Lover's Cove. The shark came up and hit the board, knocked him and the board up in the air, and he landed in the water. And the shark kind of swam around, hit the board, bit it, and then swam off. So he wasn't injured either, other than kind of probably had the shit scared out of him.
Are you surprised that there was 3 in 5 months?
That is really unusual for such a small area like Lover's Cove to have 3 attacks in 5 months. I mean, that's almost like a science fiction type movie to have. Something.
Is that our future? Do we expect more?
No, because a typical since they've been really keeping good data since 1950 to now. There's been anywhere from 0 to maybe 8, I think at the high side, 8 shark attacks in California alone. Now the population's gone from, and the average is 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Now the population in California has gone from around 15 million in 1950 to like 40 million now.
Right.
There's way more people in the water, stand-up paddleboards, all this stuff we didn't have before. And the average number of attacks is about the same.
Right.
So that, sharks are not looking for people out there. There's more sharks out there. You'd think there'd be a little more of an uptick, but there hasn't been. I mean, the 3 close by was definitely a high number.
Do sharks like humans? Is that part of their diet?
I think we're kind of scrawny for what they're
looking. Not fatty enough?
They're looking for fat.
Yeah.
And so they're like seals, elephant seals.
Right.
Harbor seals are great.
So if Vegas would come surfing out here, like the buffet people, that would be the sharks would be like on a heyday, right?
Yeah, but like sea otters, for example, they bite and spit the sea otters because they're probably like fur balls to them, but they never really documented them actually eating sea otters.
So now COVID's over. Now you're getting back on an airplane. You got all kinds of places you're going to.
Yeah.
What are you hoping to see What are you hoping to find?
Well, what I'm hoping to do is get back out in the field and start doing these in these different countries. I go to running identification workshops and working with a lot of the local people there to help them with improve their identification. And that also includes things like, with everybody having the phones now, like I have people they'll take a picture of the phone, they'll send it to me on like WhatsApp and stuff, which is really helpful. But you would think and again, this is even here. People send me stuff even from California. Hey, what's this shark here? And I'm like, well, I can kind of guess at it, but it's kind of like you've got like 3 sharks piled on top of it. I see a head and a tail. It's kind of like in California, I can make a better guess at it. But so a lot of these countries are. I try to train. The point is, I try to train like how to take a picture, lay it out laterally, take a picture of it. Any unusual marks on it, take a picture. The teeth are always a good identification. Yeah. And then I can help you identify it a lot better. Otherwise, I get some of these things, people set them up more artistically, which artistically looks good, but doesn't help for identification.
How many sharks have you found yourself? 50? You think it was about 50?
Well, I've named just over 50
that
I've named. But the big thing where people got to know me was finding.
We have no love. No TC.
Yeah, no.
Just we'll take a little one. Yeah, a little one.
TC, not T-shark.
We'll work on it.
Is there a little shark? Have you named a little guy?
How much money you got?
A lot.
TC, how much money you got?
I got 20.
You got 20. I'll give you 40 bucks.
So, because we all give you the great whites, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to talk, but there's little guys too, right?
Well, most of the sharks, like 80%, a little over 80% of all sharks are less than 6 feet long. Half of all sharks, about 50%, are less than 3 feet. So most sharks are small. In fact, there's some sharks that don't get any bigger than the palm of my hand, and these things, people don't even recognize them as a shark. You see them at fish markets. In fact, one shark, there was a big-eyed spine shark I found back in the late 1980s in Taiwan. Hadn't been seen in over 30 years. It was known from one specimen. I found 36 of them one day at
a market.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's the stuff that's stuff I didn't keep really track of. It's just things that haven't been seen in decades. Which the new species are neat, but when you find something that hasn't been seen in 100 years, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing because I fish out here and we catch kind of a plethora of sharks in the bay.
Yeah.
And I'm always amazed how strong they are. Like the brute, you can't even hang on to them. Even dog sharks, you're like it's
right.
Pound per strength per pound.
Strong.
Is there anything stronger out there?
Well, bat rays.
Oh.
Bat rays are, if you ever hook into a big bat ray,
they like to fly in circles around the boat. It's really exciting.
Oh yeah, they're like, those things are really hard to. Those are really hard to get.
It's like holding onto a jet airplane on the end of a fishing rod.
Yeah.
And they want to go like this.
Right. Those are things that are
So
really hard to get.
You said the bull shark was the one you don't want to bump into.
The bull, yeah.
The bull shark, that was the gnarliest one, was a bull shark.
Yeah, the bull sharks, the thing with those, there's kind of a question of whether if they get to California. They definitely occur in Baja, down in the Sea of Cortez and stuff. And they're the kind of shark that if you're in clear water and you see a bull shark, they'll tend to be very kind of shy. You can see them, but they'll stay back. But as soon as the visibility goes down or the light goes down, then everything's off. Then they get real aggressive, and they're one of those sharks.
Is that the most angry shark, you think?
Yeah, I'd say so, because like a white shark, you hear about they'll bite and spit. Tiger sharks will kind of also bite stuff. Bull sharks, when they come in, man, they're just bang, bang, bang.
Nothing left over from that, right?
They'll keep coming at you.
They're not biting you; they're hitting you.
Oh no, they're biting.
Oh, they are.
When I say they're biting. They're not into the bite and spit. They're into the bite.
That's when your foamy trucker hat's the only thing floating.
Yeah.
Everything else is gone, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man.
In South Africa, they still have the shark nets.
Yeah. This is off the East Coast around Durban. And the thing about it's kind of controversial, like why you got these shark nets out there. But if you know the coast there's a lot of rivers. And bull sharks like rivers, and they go up the rivers to a lot of times give birth and stuff, and so
they can go in freshwater too.
Yes, bull sharks go into freshwater.
Oh, they just get better and better. Next thing you know, they're in the swimming pool.
Yeah, they like to go up the river. Well, the thing in Durban is as surfers would know, the river mouths are great surf breaks.
Right.
So where does everybody surf? And at times of the year, you got these bull sharks in these really popular surf areas, and they're also. You have people that come from inland that want to go to these popular beaches because you're in the subtropical, tropical area, and you got bull sharks there also. So, and what happened there back in the late 50s, there was what they called as like bloody Easter or something, where over a week span they had 7 shark attacks, along a stretch of coast in Durban. You think we had 3 here? We
Wow.
had 7, and people were like going freaking out. And Durban survives on tourism.
Yeah.
And so you imagine shutting down Honolulu or Miami
Thus
Beach.
the nets.
So that's where they put the nets out there. And the thing is even though the interesting thing is the nets mostly catch the sharks at night when the sharks seem to get in when they're heading back offshore.
Yeah, you know, it seems to be funny. We have a lot of sharks there by Manresa,
Yeah.
Cement Boat,
Yeah.
right there between Cement Boat and New Brighton Beach.
Right.
But there's, especially nowadays, there's hundreds and hundreds of surfers.
Yeah,
You know, I'm just wondering why one just slide at that.
because you're not in the menu.
Isn't the menu? But the menu's right there. Are they smart enough to go? There's a new menu.
Yeah, well, if they want long pig or whatever people or something, they could probably.
Well,
go
and
for
what
it.
you were saying too is a lot of times when they're in there, they've already fed,
right,
and they're kind of in their chill
Yeah.
digestive.
they tend to be mostly active between dusk and dawn. So during the day, again, I don't want they have attacks any time of the day, but during the day, they tend to be. You'll see them there, and I can see this from flying over in the helicopter. Is that you'll see them there, but they're just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
And the thing is that and Chris Gallardi of Specialized Helicopters told me this, and then I've seen this where if you go off Manresa, you'll see the big ones.
Yeah.
Big sharks.
That would
You
be
go-
at Manresa, ladies and gentlemen. That
Yeah.
would be MAN.
Don't go there.
Hey, Rovi.
And you'll see
Manresa.
guys surfing out there, which is I know it's a popular surf spot. But you go up to like this cement boat, and you go. I mean, I've been up there, and I think you have
Yeah.
as well. You go like a mile on each side of the thing. I mean, I'll count up to 40 white sharks and just get tired of counting them.
It's like Times Square.
Yeah,
That's amazing,
It's
huh?
like it's like
I gotta grab something over here.
it's like six. There's like six,
Here you
6
go.
to 8 feet. These are all the smaller sharks, kind of the young of the year.
What'd you do? Where'd that thing go?
It's gone.
No.
Yeah.
What do you have?
We had to show
Is
Rovi's.
it up there?
Is it up there?
I don't know.
I don't see it.
No, I don't see it.
What are you looking for?
I'm gonna look for the shark bracelet thing.
We
Oh,
so last time you were on the show, we had Sean Rovi, who's one of our sponsors,
back.
local insurance guy, and he wore the shark bracelet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, remember? And we they debunked it.
That's right.
Because you were saying that's actually an industry, right? Shark repellent.
Yeah,
It is all that like mythical stuff. That is there anything that works? Did the Navy figure it out?
The short answer is no.
No.
Yeah, I mean they have some stuff that sort of seem to work. Other times the shark will eat it.
Right.
Because you're dealing with multiple different types of sharks, and if you're in the water and you got the stuff dissipates really quickly, and so
Well,
basically,
you scared him into taking that bracelet off, and he put it up on the shelf over there.
Oh,
and
did he?
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah,
Oh.
he was like, "I'm over this thing. I'm not gonna wear it again."
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
That's
because
right.
he was laughing how he's not gonna get bit by a shark, and you're like, "I actually might attract them."
Yeah, well, yeah. 'Cause, hey, what happened to his buddies?
Right. Well, I mean, Veronica Gray, one of our guests, she thought that black and white striped wetsuit would save
Oh, like
people.
like
the sea snake
the
look.
sea snake. Yeah,
But
yeah.
it turns out that sea snake is on the diet.
Well, how many sea snakes have you seen in Monterey Bay?
True. Yeah.
Now, the thing that eats the sea snakes are tiger sharks,
Who are really awful,
which we
right?
don't really have here in the bay.
Right.
Occasionally, there's been a few records in Southern California, San Diego, but they're really, tiger sharks are more the tropics and stuff. Hawaii.
And are tiger sharks on? Is that a sea snake diet?
Well, they actually see the thing is, people want to dress up like, oh, I'm going to be a sea snake. Well,
Yeah.
the tiger sharks eat sea snakes,
Good God.
so
Yeah. So don't mess. Yeah.
yeah.
okay.
So you're kind of like, you
So
kinda-
all that crap is just crap. Guys trying to make money and
yeah,
scare you into
I-
buying
yeah,
stuff.
I-
So the best advice is don't go out early in the morning and don't go out.
Yeah,
if you're-
dawn and dusk.
You're
Generally,
worried.
again, the attack can happen any time of the day, but that's probably during the middle of the day is probably your better time
Right.
than at dawn and dusk as far as the sharks. They tend to be more active, and then just use common sense. Have a partner when you're diving out there if you're surfing. Go. I know people like sometimes go by themselves and have that sort of solitude, which is neat, but. Just going in the water generally, forget about sharks. Just good to have somebody if something happens,
Yeah.
something goes
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, I always say it's almost more dangerous to cross the street
Yeah.
than be in the water.
Well, you can hear all the
you know?
statistics.
Yeah.
Of course.
Chance of
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
in an accident, getting to the beach is
Yeah.
higher than you
Right.
getting hit by a shark.
What's your business card say? Is this a Dave Ebert, shark expert?
I'm the
What do
lost shark guy.
Lost shark guy.
Yeah.
So I think I might know where it is over here. Keep going.
Really?
Keep going.
So like you're on a plane next to somebody, hey, the guy asks you what you do, what do you tell
Nothing.
him?
Depends.
The shark expert?
Yeah.
Did we lose it?
I think someone grabbed it.
Oh my god.
I hope they get bit by a shark.
Oh, what's that?
They're like, that's a shark bracelet. I'm gonna wear
Oh, I
it.
got something for you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, we do have something for you.
Oh.
Yeah, this is good stuff over here.
So this is from my dear friend Cindy from Merge 4 Socks.
Thank you for sponsoring the show,
And
Merge
she
4.
sponsors the show. We got,
Oh,
we
geez.
got Shark here. I mean, you're the only person ever to get 2 pairs on the
Wow.
Shark.
That is true.
That's true.
Every guest gets what we have sharks here.
Yeah.
And we have sharks there.
Oh, cool.
So let's show the so we have these.
Yeah.
Merge 4, the best socks on the
And
planet.
if you
by
go
the
to
way.
merge4.com, you can get.
You got Merge 4s
These
on
look
today?
cool.
Always.
Yep.
Yeah.
Always Merge 4s on,
Oh,
by
wow.
the way. That's all we wear.
So this is the right sock. When it says Merge 4, you put on the right foot.
Oh, wow.
And these are Taylor Reinhold socks right here. Our friend Taylor, who's been on the show,
Oh,
prolific muralist and artist here in Santa Cruz. So hello, Taylor.
oh, cool.
Congrats, Dave.
Thanks, man. Thanks,
Yeah, that's
guys.
awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Are you slowing down? Are you saying I've named
No.
50, I'm done?
No, I'm done when they drop me in the ground, throw some dirt on me, and I'll be done then.
And you can get we got these have run out, right? They're,
No, these books are available
They
now.
are available now.
Sharks of the World, and if you go to, you can find them on Amazon.
Okay.
Actually, I have an author webpage there, Sharks of the World,
Yeah.
or you can go to Princeton University Press.
And you got the smaller book. You got the travel book.
Yeah, we also have the pocket guide. So if you're going to
Pocket.
Hawaii, if you're going to Hawaii and you don't want to carry this big book here, there's a small pocket guide. It's I think
Okay.
it's about $20 or
Okay.
so.
How many sharks are in this book?
I think there's like 535. What is it? 540 or something?
540?
Yeah.
There's more to be
540s?
put in. There's more to go.
Oh yeah, the next edition will be out in a couple of years, a few years, and they'll have another
Yeah.
15 or 20 species.
And so the artist who did all these is Mark.
Mark Dando, yeah.
And that's amazing. That's a lot of art. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
this
no.
book is loaded with art.
yeah, we show them all those pictures in here.
It's
just like-
incredible.
yeah, this is all Mark's amazing work here.
No, it's really incredible.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about are these flat sharks? Is that what you call
These are actually angel sharks.
Oh,
They're actually
angel
shark.
sharks. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason this is actually a good example here. They're angel sharks, and the difference between the sharks and the rays. And rays are flat sharks. What they are, if you take a shark and you flatten it, the difference in these is the gills are on the side of the head, whereas
not on the bottom.
the rays are on the underneath. And so,
Gotcha.
and angel sharks occur. You do get an angel shark. California angel shark occurs out here.
And Steve
These are
Irwin,
here.
Yeah.
the most famous like shark death or a flat shark
Flat
death.
shark death. Yeah.
Is that common? Is that how random?
Yeah, that does happen where people, most of the time people get stung on their ankles. Because if you go out to some place, there's a place in Southern California, I think it's Seal Beach, they'll have 500-600 people get stung by rays, mostly around their ankles. In Steve Irwin's case, he came up on a ray, and I never saw it, but what was described, he came up on a ray, and they have like their spines are quite long. I mean, you're talking about some of these rays they're like a stiletto. I mean, it's like and they'll sit there like that with the ray. And if you come up behind them, which is what I think he did, the thing just like shot up, and unfortunately, you had something like this big went right through his heart.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, and I've been in Mexico. I told you earlier.
Yeah.
Punta Chavato. You slide your
Yes.
feet in the sand, and you feel them moving, and
Right.
you feel
On the
that
beach.
energy
On
Yeah.
the beach.
in the water, like
Okay.
ankle deep and
Yeah.
then knee deep.
Right.
Yeah.
And you could feel that. It's crazy.
Yeah, you want to shuffle. If you're anywhere you're not sure if there might be rays, especially in Baja, but LA down Southern California, some of those beaches, just shuffle your feet. Don't go doing this because you'll step on one of these rays. You'll get a nasty spine in your ankle. It hurts like a son of a bitch.
I bet.
Definitely don't want to get that. So shuffle, and the rays will take off because they don't want to bother.
Can you die from not from through the heart, but from the sting of a ray? Is there? does that
Yeah,
happen?
they do have. You can. What happens? They'll get infected.
Okay.
And so what you do, and they do have a mild toxin. What you do, if you're
You pee on it?
No, what you do is you want to get in a bucket of as hot a water as you can stand, and just hold it in there as a first aid. Because the hot water, the hot water will neutralize the toxin.
Got it.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I always knew when you stepped on an urchin, you pee on it. Maybe
Yeah.
it's because it's hot.
Well, the urchin, I think it might be the same thing too. You
Yeah.
just want to get it hot. The peeing thing, I don't know.
Maybe that's just a weird surfer dude thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hey, comment below.
Yeah,
if you
let
ever
us know.
stepped on that and it worked.
Thanks, Dave. Coming on the show.
Dave,
Yeah,
welcome
no
back.
problem.
Hey, you
Thanks.
guys, by the way, this is a great Christmas gift. So you can get them on Amazon?
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
you get
amazing.
the, you
yeah.
get the pocket guide.
You can get the
pocket
pocket guide
guide,
too.
yeah.
But this is my copy, and I'm really happy to have this. So,
Great.
Dave Ebert,
Yeah.
lost shark
Guy.
Yeah, Guy. And you're on Instagram.
Follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, Lost Shark Guy
on Instagram.
And you do a lot of cool Instagram stuff. You're
Yep.
you're traveling the world, and it sounds like you're going to hit the road.
I'll be on the road in the springtime, and so you can follow me. I'll be
So
traveling.
if you
around
follow
the world.
Lost Shark Guy, you might see a new shark named.
Literally, yes.
Wow.
You
Okay.
might- yeah.
Great reason for that. Well, thank you for coming on the show. As
No
always.
problem.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you,
great
guys.
to have you
Thanks,
here.
Dave.
Well, can't wait to get you back on the show after we get our next edition and all the new named sharks you're going to discover. Neil, coming up.
Next week is the Santa Cruz Board Riders Guild.
Love it. Yep.
Rufo and Company.
Okay, I love that. Okay, which is a great. When they first started, who knew?
Yeah.
Looking back, killing it. So congrats to the board riders. Dave Ebert, thanks again.
Hey,
Yeah.
no problem. Great.
T Fox, thanks for letting us share to the world all this cool stuff on Santa Cruz Waves. If you're listening on the podcast, 2 hands on the wheel. Neil, I'll see you next week
got it,
for
buddy.
show number 719.
Something like that.
All right, good night, everybody.
All right.